Hello everybody, I hope everyone is doing well and welcome back. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing my February roundup. If you aren't familiar with these videos, I basically give you my final review of all the products I brought into my collection over the past month. So basically it's like a monthly favorites, but I also discuss the products that I disliked or was disappointed by. So I have three categories in these types of videos. So the first portion is my favorites, so that's pretty much like my monthly favorites. Then I go into my liked category, which is the products that I did enjoy but I don't find to be the most unique. And of course the third category are the products I disliked or just wasn't blown away by. So before we get into it, I would love for you to subscribe if you aren't already. It means so much to me, and let's get to it. So of course I'm going to start off with my favorites, and I wanted to kick this video off with the Smashbox Always On Cream Shadows. I wasn't expecting to love these as much as I do. It's been years since I loved a Smashbox product. I'm not even sure what the last Smashbox product that I enjoyed was, but I am so happy that these were a success. I've been using this shade Greige like crazy over the last little bit ever since I received these. Their formula is beautiful. It's very lightweight, very easy to blend out, but they also stay put on your eyes so well without enhancing or making your eyelids feel dry. I find that that is quite rare for cream or liquid shadows. Sometimes they can be a little finicky. With these ones, it just blends out like a normal powder eyeshadow. These are very user-friendly, and there was a little bit of a technique that I had to learn. The first time I used it was not the best way to apply it, and that's when I was wearing the shade Olive in my full face using cream products. But in my recent one and done video, I showed you a really good technique to use these. I like to first build it on top of my mobile lid, then blend it up into the crease instead of going crease down. I feel like that technique makes for the smoothest application, and with that technique I don't experience any patchiness or unevenness at all. It just is super seamless and great. Oftentimes with these types of products, I find that they dry down too much and they make my eyelids feel really tight. They're a little bit uncomfortable, but this does not feel that way at all. Once these set, they feel a little velvety, similar to like a powder eyeshadow would feel. These are truly a really fantastic formula, and their shade range is actually really fun. It ranges through some really nice neutral everyday colors to some fun out there kind of colors. I would love to see more colors come out because it's such a bomb formula, but the shade range itself right now is really fun. So I highly recommend these. They're great. So the next product I want to talk about is the Becca Light Shifter Doing Tint, and I feel kind of sad to talk about this one because yesterday Becca did announce that they are shutting down, which feels really sad. I don't know all my thoughts about it yet. Becca Opal was my first ever purchase when I really was getting into makeup. The first highlighter I ever had was from Becca, so it feels kind of like a full circle moment in a way that my last favorite from them is a highlighting product. So this is very bittersweet, but I have fallen in love with this product over the course of the last month. You guys know I love these types of products. This is a tinted illuminator, so you can use it all over your face if you want to, or you can use it in targeted areas, and that's my preferred way to use it. I like to use it kind of like I would my Auric or my Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. So I just apply it to the high points of my face underneath my foundation and on top of my foundation if I want to add more glow. I find this formula to be quite similar to the Auric one. It's just a little amped up. I find that the pearl is a little bit more reflective, and there are some downsides to that because it can be a little bit more texture enhancing, but it's nothing crazy at all. It's just more texture enhancing compared to the Auric one, but it's still very minimal in my experience. At first I wasn't sure how much I was going to reach for this product since I have other products that are quite similar to it, but I feel like this one does have its place. If I want more of an intense glow, I go to this one. I think this is a really nice formula too. It feels really nice and hydrating. I really like its gel consistency. It just feels really nice on your skin. So for these, I would definitely recommend them, and I don't know how much longer you're going to be able to get these products, so I am going to really treasure these guys for sure. Next up, I have a concealer I actually really enjoyed over the course of this month, and that is the Quo Beauty Concealer. This is their Miracle Cover Concealer. I wouldn't say that this is a full coverage one at all. I think it's a nice medium buildable one. I really love its finish. It has a little bit more glow compared to the Milk Makeup one. I find them to be very similar formulas. It's a very solid, reliable formula, and I've had nothing but great experiences with this so far. I am in between these two shades right now. I believe there is a couple shades in between, but with that being said, I still wish that the shade range was better. My favorite thing about this concealer is how lightweight it wears, but it still packs a punch, and I have found that this is a super reliable formula as well, and it pairs well with a variety of things. It has paired well with all of my foundations, same with my Becca Under Eye Brightener. Works great on top of that. It doesn't crease or move around during the day. Ever since I received this, I have not stopped using it. It's been the only concealer that I've been using for the last couple of weeks. I would recommend it. It's a great formula. This month, I also filmed a full face of Nars, so there's going to be quite a few Nars products in this video. The first one I wanted to talk about is the Vallarta Matte Bronzer. I really love this tone, especially where my skin's at right now. I love how it's right in between a bronzer and a contour product for me at the moment. I feel like it doesn't look too crazy on my skin. A lot of my favorite bronzers recently have been standing off my face a little bit since they are too warm for me at the moment. But I find that this one flatters my paler skin beautifully. It does a really great job at sculpting and accentuating my skin and just warming up my overall complexion. I really like this formula too. This is their matte version. I find that it just blends out very beautifully. When you first apply it, it does feel like it's going to be a little bit sticky, which I was nervous about the first couple of times I used this, but it diffuses so effortlessly. And I do like that little tack in there because I find that it really stays put on my face all day. I think this is a really great bronzing formula and I would recommend it. I've been using it like crazy. I have a little miniature dent in this already. I see myself gravitating towards this product a ton. The next Nars product that I completely fell in love with are the blushes. The Air Matte Blush. I have two shades here, Gasp and Hushed. I'm wearing the shade Gasp on my cheeks right now. This is a really nice kind of warm brown nude for my skin tone. This is the shade I've been using the most, but I also have been really enjoying the shade Hushed. This one just gives a really subtle hint of color that I think is very flattering. I really love how user-friendly these are. They also have a really unique texture to them. When you swatch them, it almost sounds and feels like you're swatching an aero bar. You know how they have like those little air bubbles inside? It truly is a whipped blush formula. It's very, very unique, but I love how easily you can blend these out on your cheeks. If you do end up over applying some, you just continue to blend at those edges and they just seamlessly blend out. And I think that's really great because I can be really heavy-handed with blush, as all of you know. And I've been reaching for these on the days where I want a subtle hint of color to my cheeks. They're really nice and natural looking. Highly recommend these. They're really fun. The next product I want to talk about is their eyeliner, and this is in the shade Grafton Street. This is their High Pigment Longwear eyeliner. This is the one I used in my video, and it's that really pretty deep teal color. I did a really fun eyeliner look, and I also really pushed this pencil's limit. I really love how easy this pencil was to blend out, and it also was really easy to create kind of a nice sharp liner on top of my eye. It was really nice and glidey. It didn't create any jagged lines at all. It just slid effortlessly, and it also stayed really, really well in the waterline. So this is a really great all-in-one pencil. I find that that can be quite rare. I have some pencils on hand that are better to stay in the waterline, but they're kind of harder to blend out or create sharp liners with. I have a couple pencils on hand just for all those specific reasons, but this one is a one and done, and I love that. So I highly recommend this formula. It's fantastic. And my last favorite of the month has been these two eyeshadow shades from Nars. It's kind of funny, now that I'm looking at it, I have far less favorites than disappointments this month, which is crazy. But anyways, these two shadows, I wasn't expecting to use them as much as I do, but these two shades paired with the Smashbox grayish color, it's a perfect match, and they're all so small and compact, so they fit in a makeup bag so nicely. But these three products have been my everyday go-to look. I'll put this on all over my lid, and I'll sometimes add this into the crease if I wanted to soften this up. And then I'll define my outer corner with this shade right here called Coconut Grove. This one I think I forgot to name the the color, but this is Blondie. They're both pretty basic shades. Like this one's a deep brown and this is and this one's like a nice cool toned transitional shade. I definitely have a couple more shades like this in actual palettes, but I do actually enjoy having them in singles. I think they're really nice and portable and they're just easy to grab. I've been reaching for these far more than the palettes that have these types of shades in it, which is really crazy. I hope to see more singles come out. I really want the singles trend to come back. Their formula is really nice as well because it is a little bit more on the natural side a little bit. They're not super matte. They have like a little glow running through them that I think is really beautiful, and you don't really see that often. I find that these kind of give off like a red carpet vibe. It gives like a nice natural glow to your lid. I think it's really stunning. So this has been my go-to eye look for a couple weeks now. So now moving on to my second category. Over the past month, I also did a full face of Jason Wu products, and I just wanted to talk about something real quick. In the comments of that video, many of you are saying that a lot of the products reminded you of this Korean makeup brand that I don't know how to pronounce, but it's 3CE, thrice, I'm not sure. And I wasn't aware of that brand before, but after I got a couple comments, I looked them up, and the Jason Wu products are complete ripoffs, and that honestly left a really bad taste in my mouth. I know there are a ton of brands that kind of copycat or kind of dupe each other, but for me, because he is a designer, it just felt really weird. I was surprised that a designer couldn't come up with his own aesthetic and own creativity within his own makeup line. Let me know what you guys think of that. That's just how I feel. But putting all those thoughts to the side, I'm still going to review the actual product. So I first want to talk about this eyeshadow palette here. I'm wearing this palette on my eyes right now. This is in my liked category because I do not like the shimmers at all. In my first review, I was kind of torn on them because they're kind of a more sheer glittery pressed shadow. And they do look really beautiful in direct sunlight, but how often are you going to be like this in front of direct sunlight? You're not. These shades in direct sunlight or just indoor lighting do not look great. They look uneven and not the best. But speaking about the mattes are really nice. They have a nice tack to them, so they build up really nicely. They build and build on top of each other, which is really nice. I did really enjoy this kind of style of palette because it is quite light toned, and there's so many times where I set off to do kind of like a softer no makeup look, but then I end up with a super smoky eye. So I liked having a palette on hand that kind of limited my options so I can just stick into that realm. So I am going to be keeping this palette for those types of days when I want a more soft look, but just be aware that the shimmer shades aren't good at all in my opinion. He did come out with an all matte eyeshadow palette that looks really stunning, but I don't think I'm going to be purchasing that one anymore. I think I'm just going to keep this one around for when I want to do softer looks. But that's how I feel with this palette. The mattes are great, the shimmers aren't. Take what you will with that. I don't feel 100% recommending this product just because there are a lot of downsides, and I don't like how this is a complete copycat of someone else's brand. Now moving on to the Jason Wu bullet lipsticks. I do really love how they're all monochromatic. Again, this is exactly like that other brand. I really like this formula because it is very soft and silky on the lips, and it does give kind of a blurring aspect to your lips as well. I wouldn't say that this is like one of my all-time favorite lipstick formulas, but with that being said, I do find that it's quite nice. It is a little bit more on the silky side, so it gives kind of that almost a tinted look. It softens the texture on your lips and it gives like a nice velvety color. They don't super stand out to me in my collection, but they are a fine formula, that's for sure. If you were to pick one of these up, I don't think you'd be disappointed at all. So now I have a couple complexion products here I wanted to talk about. The first one being the Milk Makeup Sunshine Skin Tint. They recently revamped this formula. It now has ocean safe SPF as well as no silicone. I do really love this formula. It's so dewy and I love its texture because it really stays put on your skin. A lot of super sheer, super glowy textures like this, they tend to slip away from your face during the day. This one stays put really well, and I also find that it is a very unique component as well. It's a unique application. I really like how you pump some of it out and then roll it onto your face. The only downside to this product is the amount of product you get in here, and I find that it is a little bit pricey for what it is. You get 16 milliliters of product in here, and I find that it's a little hard to justify that. With that being said, a little bit of this product does go a long way, and I find that this formula is unique because it is buildable. So if you have some problem areas, or if you want to spot correct some areas a little more, you can totally get away with that. I am someone who has an oilier complexion, so sometimes this can get a little bit greasy looking on me, but I do blot my face a little bit throughout the day and it's fine. I am going to be keeping this in my collection and I'm going to use it a ton. I just have a few hesitations towards this product, if that makes any sense. So that's why it wasn't in my favorites. The next foundation I wanted to talk about is the Nars Sheer Glow foundation. This is the one I'm wearing on my skin right now. For the first little bit, I was loving this foundation. For 2 weeks straight, I think this was the only foundation I was reaching for. But over the course of this month, my skin has gone through so many changes, and I know you guys noticed them too, which is so great. My skin is rapidly changing because it's healing itself, and I couldn't be happier with that. But that comes with some dry skin days and some oilier days. And I have found over the course of a couple weeks that this foundation tends to enhance some areas of my face, and those areas are of course right here where I have some healing acne scars, but I also find that this foundation tends to bunch up in some areas and settles and kind of makes your skin look a little bit aged. For me, anywhere that I move my face a lot, it tends to not look so great, so especially anywhere around my mouth, I don't super love the appearance of it. And on my forehead right here, I find that it almost looks a little cakey, but on the areas that don't move much on me, like my forehead and around my face, it looks really flawless. So for this foundation, I don't find it to be the most reliable. For the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be my new favorite foundation ever. It looked stunning, but then one day it just did the complete opposite and it really did not look great. So I find that I have good days and bad days with this foundation. I also find that the name is a little misleading because it's neither sheer nor glowy. The only sheer glow it has is kind of like a nice satin finish through it, so I think that's why it's called Sheer Glow. I would say it's almost like a medium full coverage. And my last thing that I don't super love about it is that it doesn't have a pumper or anything, so I tend to pour out a little bit more than I would like, and I don't really like putting it back in there because I find that's a little unsanitary. But those are my problems I have with this foundation. But with all that being said, I'm still going to keep this in my collection, and I think I'm going to be using it time to time on my good skin days when I don't have any dry areas. But I think if you had a super dehydrated skin type, I would stay away from this one. I feel like it could be quite texture enhancing. So I have 2 more products to talk about in this section, then we'll move on to my disappointments. The next product I want to talk about is the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer. In my full face of Nars, I didn't like this one at all because it was very texture enhancing and it looked very dry. But over the month, I did learn to just use the tiniest amount possible, and then it looked really nice. When I was first getting into makeup, this was the only concealer I would use. I think I went through 5 large tubes of this, and it was just my favorite thing ever. So I was really surprised when I tried this again and I found that it was quite dehydrating under there. I have been using it here and there over the course of this month, and if you use a tiny amount, it does look great. But I feel like if you have any under eye texture or if you have more mature skin, I feel like this could look a little crepey on you, because some days if I apply just a little bit too much, it looks crepey under there. So I do like this concealer, but it's not my all-time favorite in the slightest. I just like it. So the last product I'm going to be talking about in this section is the Lancome Lash Idole mascara. I'm wearing it on this eye today. I find that this is a really nice natural looking mascara. It lengthens slightly, it separates them really nicely. I don't find that it volumizes at all. I also do really enjoy the applicator. It has this super banana shape, and I really enjoy those types of ones because it's super easy to get right into the inner corner to those really tiny lashes that you want to enhance without fearing that you're going to mess up your eyeshadow or accidentally hit the wand to your lids or inner nose area. So I love how you're able to control this mascara. For me personally, it doesn't super align with my preferences. You guys know that I like something that is lengthening, volumizing, and separating. And this one doesn't really have any volumizing properties at all. So it isn't my favorite, but on my more quick days, if I'm just wearing like a one shadow look, like the Rare Beauty liquid shadows or the Always On from Smashbox, I find that this is a great mascara to grab to. I feel like it suits that kind of effortless look. So if you're someone who's on the more natural side and you like to enhance your lashes slightly or just lengthen them a little bit and keep them separated, I think this is a great mascara for you. So it's time to move on to the last category of today's video. And usually this is my smallest category, but today it's my largest. I think this is the first time that this has happened. But all of these products I was either disappointed by, I found them to be unremarkable, and I honestly don't really see myself really using any of these products again. So the first one I wanted to talk about, this is the first product I grabbed. This is the Smashbox Superfan Mascara. I'm honestly not a super fan of this formula. I find it to be very sticky. When I first used it, I thought it was super promising because the wand looks very, very similar to the Gucci Beauty one, but sadly the actual formula is really, really sticky. I find that it can get your lashes to a clumpy or spidery state real quick. A good thing about this one is that it doesn't crumble at all, so that's one takeaway. I just find that this one isn't very user-friendly. Whenever I reached for this one, I had to super take my time with it and really pay attention to what I was doing. The experience wasn't easy at all. So over the past month, I saw myself reaching for this less and less and less. I wouldn't recommend this one at all. I feel like there are a ton of better mascaras out there. Ones that come to mind that I prefer over this one are the Marc Jacobs at Blashed. I have actually fallen really in love with the Gucci Beauty one. I adore the Pat McGrath mascaras, or the Ilia Beauty one as well is a good one, but I would recommend those 10 times more over this one. I would completely pass on this mascara. So the next product I wanted to talk about is this Buxom Wonderlust Glow Highlighter in the shade Wanderlust. I find that this formula is quite dated. I find that this is similar to like the Anastasia, the glow kits that they used to come out with. Not sun dipped, but the ones that were like inspired by sweet stuff. Like there's like a shade called Gumdrop and stuff. This kind of highlighter feels very similar to a satin eyeshadow. I find that it applies way too thick on your face and it looks very, very artificial or unnatural to me. And I also didn't enjoy this color because it's a very icy pinky violet color, and it's just a shade that I wouldn't really gravitate towards. So I wouldn't recommend it personally. It just sat too thick on my face, therefore it enhanced a lot of texture. So this for me was a pass. Next up, I had the MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot in the shade Belle Epic. I was really excited for these because they came out with a ton of really fun, cool shades, but sadly this formula does super crease on me and it kind of moves and settles into my grooves in my eyes very easily. I have found that this isn't a flattering texture for my lids. It looked great immediately, but it didn't wear well. And I actually remember that from the original paint pots. I used to prime my eyes with soft ochre all the time because that's what everyone else was doing, but I would always experience my oils to come through and my shadow would always, always, always crease. So sadly this formula doesn't work for me. I really wanted it to because the shades are so fun and these products could be very versatile. I haven't tried this one as an eyeliner yet, so maybe I'll give it another shot in that way, but all over my lids it does not work. I have to completely avoid my crease or else it's going to be a creasy disaster. So sadly this one didn't work for me and I was kind of torn up about it, to be honest, not gonna lie. The next product here is the Nars Tinted Glow Booster. I didn't find that it did any glow boosting at all. It was far too natural. I find that this one doesn't even really have that much of a glow running through it. I'll swatch it on my hand here. It's just very, I guess it does, especially in this lighting right now, but it doesn't look like that when I applied it all over my face. I applied it under my foundation today just to see again, and it just doesn't really add anything since I already have moisturizer and everything like that. It doesn't add anything too much to my skin. So for me, there are a ton of products that are similar to this but actually do something at a better price point as well. I feel like you can save your monies on this one and skip out on this. It did not stand out to me in the slightest. Next up, I have this Jason Wu Opal stick, and this was the most random product he brought out in his little line so far. It is a violet blue highlighter, and this was so random to me because everything else is super natural, very sheer, very natural, model off duty kind of vibes. And then all of a sudden you have a robot highlighter. And not only that, but the formula isn't great at all either. It dries immediately when you apply it. You can't really apply it with a brush either. It just enhances so much texture. It almost clings onto your texture and it makes it look glittery. There aren't any glittery particles in this whatsoever, but on my actual face, it made it look glittery, which was so weird. It is really cool to look at swatched, but when you're actually wearing it, it's like, what are you doing? Total fail for me, that's for sure. Next up, I have this Colourpop pressed powder blush, and this is the shade Out of Sight. I really don't like their products like these. I find them so hard to open. I don't like this style of packaging at all. Am I even gonna be able to get this open? There it is. So for me, this base shade was beautiful. I really loved the actual color of this blush. But there's so many different types of pearls in here and glitter in here that it just really attached and enhanced my pores where I usually apply blush. So immediately that just made me want to run for the hills. This was a super enhancer and I don't think anybody wants that, so I wouldn't recommend this one either. So I now have a couple face powders I'm going to be talking about. The first one here is the Jason Wu Ready Set Matte. I will say that I think it's hilarious that they tried to translate the products in French, but most of them are complete fails. Like, this one does not make any sense. But anyways, my only issue with this product is that it didn't really suit my preferences. I found it to be way too mattifying for me. I did like how blurring it was, but I didn't reach for it much because it really sucked up any moisture I had in my skin. I will say that this one wasn't on the uncomfortable side. A lot of super mattifying powders just super suck up anything, and it almost feels like it tightens your face at the same time. I didn't find that this one had that tightening feeling. It was just too matte for my liking. I like to have a very glowy base, as you guys know, so this one just didn't suit my style or preference. But if you are someone who likes to be extremely matte, maybe give this one a go, but I just don't see myself using it, if I'm being honest. Next up, I feel really bad to talk about this product, but it's the Becca Light Shifter Finishing Veil Powders. I feel like this is a really great idea. I thought this was going to be a product that I was going to love, but sadly it did not work for me. This looked horrendous under the eyes, and I also did not like it on my face anywhere. It looked great when I immediately applied it, but after a little time passed, it made my skin look extremely cakey and textured, and it almost aged my skin. But in my initial video, I did try this deeper shade as a bronzer, and it actually worked out pretty good, but I haven't reached for it since because there are some really silver pieces of random glitter in here, and they do kind of wisp away, but that definitely kept me from using this. I have so many beautiful bronzers in my collection that I reached over this one. It didn't stand out to me at all. So I feel really bad to talk a little negatively about these products in these times for Becca, but I had to be honest, I didn't like these products. Next up, I have the Jason Wu, Jason the Freckled Boy Freckle Maker. This is a product similar to Freck. It has a very different tone. This one is far warmer, and also it's a little bit trickier to work with. I was really excited to see this product at the drugstore, but I think it kind of missed its mark. The formula isn't entirely there. This one you have to take a little bit more time to create freckles. You have to apply it, then let it set for a little bit, then move it around to create like a dimension of freckles, which can be kind of tricky because once you get going, sometimes it kind of breaks up the flow of the full freckle application. I will say that the original Freck product is far more effective than this one, and I also did not enjoy its tone at all. I found that this one was way too warm, and I found it to be a little off-putting because it was the exact same color as my acne scars. So when I had put it in this area, it made me feel like I had even more acne, if that made any sense. It did work with some patients, but the color is just too warm for my preferences. I couldn't get down with it. I will be sticking to my little Freck product. So next up, I have the Jason Wu The Bush Brow Shaper Soap, and this is another one that has a really hilarious translation on it. It says La Touffe, which means, do I want to say, well, coochie. Okay, in French, coochie. Coochie soap. I cannot have coochie soap in my brows. But with that translation, putting that funny translation to the side, this product did not work. I found that it was really hard to work with. At first it turns your brows completely white and you just have to trust the process, and then it looks amazing for a little bit. But after like 3 minutes pass, the formula isn't sticky enough. It doesn't have enough something in it. The brows just immediately fall down, so you wasted a bunch of your time trying to spike and sculpt your brows. They just return to their normal laying down position. Just a good old bar of pear soap works a million times better than this stuff does, that's for sure. So I gotta say no to the coochie soap. So next up I have these Nars Air Matte Lip Colors, and this is a popular texture that has been coming out recently. I find this texture to be similar to the MAC Powder Kiss liquid lip colors. It has that nice silicone-y, slippy, velvety texture that feels really nice on the lips, but this one I found to be a little bit on the thin side, and I found that this specific formula super enhanced the texture on my lips, and I found that it was a little bit too thin, that it looked a little patchy and streaky on the lips. So this formula was a no for me. I really like the texture that we're seeing that's coming out. It gives a nice diffused kind of cute lip, but sadly this one wasn't mind-blowing at all. I have two lip liner formulas to talk about. First one being the Nars one. I didn't find anything special about this lip liner formula. It's definitely not the worst. It's very similar to the older ones we've seen, kind of classic lip liner formulas. It is in a wooden pencil, and I found them to be on the dry side. They didn't really glide. I found them to be a little tuggy, and I just wasn't blown away by them, to be honest. I feel like there are so many better lip liner formulas out there. I have a lot of favorites. My most favorite lip liners are of course the M Cosmetics ones. I also really love the Nabla ones. I really like the NYX retractable pencils, and same with the Wet n Wild ones. I feel like I have a ton of favorites that come before this formula for sure. So for me, I wouldn't recommend these. I wouldn't go out and buy one. And lastly, these are the Jason Wu pencils, and at first, in that first video, I actually really enjoyed them. But that's why I love doing these videos so much, because I can update you on my thoughts after trying out these products for a lot more time. And these ones do not have any lasting power at all. They super fade very quickly, and I find that they don't stay put very well. They kind of move around. They just slip and slide all over, and I haven't reached for them at all ever since I had a negative experience with them, so I wouldn't recommend these two. I wouldn't repurchase at all. So those were all of my experiences with all the products I brought into my collection this month. I really hope you enjoyed today's video and found it helpful. I really hope this one didn't come off too negative. I know I had a lot of disappointments this month, but I just had to be honest. If you enjoyed today's video or found it helpful in any way, please give it a like. It would help me out so very much. I'll make sure to link all of these products in the description down below as always, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Love you. Bye!